Coming up next on the Union Naval will be a conversation with Kyle Henderson, business agent of Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 184 in Paducah. Welcome back. I'm Barry Craig. 27 years old and a union officer. We talked about it a little bit before we went on the air here. Most union officers and active members are older. What brings a young man like you into the movement at such an early age?
Passion, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it. I've had a pretty strong passion for the labor movement, I guess, from a young age.
How were you when you joined?
18.
18 years old. Mm-hmm. Right out of high school?
Right out of high school.
And you held your first office when you were how old?
26.
26. One of the things, and I've had lots of union leaders on the show, and I've talked to lots of union people around the area, there's a real problem in getting young people involved. The average age of the area council is on up there. I'm sure across the state in the building trades. How do you, if you could be a magician and wave your magic wand, how would you get young people involved like yourself?
Well, like I said, I believe some of the decline is from lack of knowledge. And maybe word of mouth, I don't know, actually, you know, by getting involved with the trade schools and things like that, and even the high schools, as far as teaching or letting people know what unions are and what they're all about, I think would help a great deal.
Mm-hmm. We talked earlier about, of course, a lot of union jobs have gone overseas, and a lot of kids don't grow up in a union household. You did.
Yes.
Your dad was.
My dad was he was a pipe fitter.
Right. Who was killed on the job, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he actually died from suffered injuries from a job, right. And he was a member of the same local that I'm out of, mm-hmm. And I also have a brother that is a member. My grandmother was actually a riveter, even in World War II.
Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah, my grandfather was in a union. I had another grandfather, actually a member of a union, and my stepfather actually is a member of our local, Larry Sanderson. Yeah.
Right. And your dad was Sam Henderson.
Sam Henderson.
And in fact, the area council building is named for your dad.
Exactly, yeah. He was recording secretary.
Right. So it's a real family tradition with you.
It is.
So you grew up with it and knowing all about it.
Yeah.
So how then can unions do a better job of spreading the good word among those who know nothing about unions?
You know, like I said, maybe word of mouth, and we do a lot of work as far as you know, throughout the community. Mm-hmm. Habitat for Humanity. Actually, you know, we donate to a lot of civic organizations, and we get involved in Dollars Against Diabetes, things like that. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of times we may not get recognition for, but we do try to actually, you know, get the word out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Plumbers and Steamfitters, that is a craft union, a very old craft union going back many, many years. Explain the difference between a craft union and an industrial union for our viewers.
Well, industrial unions usually are at one specific plant or site. Trade unions actually learn a trade, and we're actually somewhat, and years ago more so, temporary labor. Mm-hmm. And we actually get our jobs through a union hall. Mm-hmm. And we're referred to a job, and that's kind of how our system works, and that is the difference. Mm-hmm. Like I said, now we are sometimes more more permanent, mm-hmm. but as far as maintenance and things like that, but we actually are still pretty much considered temporary.
Now, of course, yours is a skilled trades union.
Exactly.
You joined when you were 18 years old. I'm assuming you went to an apprenticeship
A 5-year
program.
apprenticeship.
How did that work?
Well, you apply, and you apply for apprenticeship, and then if you're accepted, in order to get in, you take a drug test, and upon taking the drug test, then you're actually brought in to our local as an apprentice. And you're under a probation period, and then you serve a 5-year apprenticeship. And after your 5-year apprenticeship, you are initiated into our local union as a journeyman.
Do you have a master ranking?
Now, you can get master plumbing license, master
Yeah.
HVAC license, things like that.
Well, what I was getting at, traditionally, going way back to medieval times, you began as a journeyman, or began as an apprentice, then you became a journeyman, and you were a master in the end. And I didn't know if they still had that
No.
or not. So you actually, to become a member of the union, you actually went to classes. You studied
Yes,
classes?
yes. 5 years, 2 nights a week, 3.5 hours a night.
What are the classes like?
Well, like your first year is kind of a general union heritage class, where you came from, that kind of thing. Kind of an orientation, general mathematics and things like that you use on the job, and some drafting and things like that. And then depending on what particular field you want to go into, you may go through a plumbing class, you'll go to a welding class, HVAC class, things of that nature.
And you all put those on too?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Our instructors are members.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are actually trained as well. They go to school and get certified to teach these classes.
And that goes on for 5 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
course-
our training is very skilled, and it's a real good deal.
And of course, that's another big difference between an industrial union is there's really nothing like that. And of course, in an industrial union, everyone in a plant is in that bargaining unit, from a janitor to a mechanic.
Exactly.
And that's
Just different classifications
exactly,
sometimes.
but all in the same union like that.
Right.
One thing you just touched on is the idea of heritage. I've talked to a number of leaders of industrial unions, and they all say that they wish their unions did a better job of stressing that. A few years ago, I taught a class in labor history for the University of Kentucky, and those who were from the building trades had instruction in the history of their union, whereas the industrial unions didn't. Do you think that's a good way to really getting across to explain to people what unions came through to do that?
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of that is very interesting, to see how these unions came about, from the start.
Of course, your union, Steamfitters, that's an old term.
Right.
Explain how that sort of evolved and changed through the years.
Well, in the beginning, a lot of our, we were steam fitters.
When
That
was
came
your
on
union founded, do you know?
1899.
1899?
Yes, we've been around over 100 years.
Right.
Steam fitters was a term that in the old days, all of your power was usually steam, steam generated, and that was your classification, was a steam fitter. And now, through evolution, I guess, there are new ways to produce power, and they still use steam, but there are different means now, and now you may be classified as a pipe fitter, but still going back to our roots, we're still plumbers and steam fitters.
But you said some of the newer locals have changed the name.
Some of the newly chartered locals will be plumbers and pipe fitters, and we're actually plumbers, steam fitters, HVAC servicemen, and the sprinkler fitters.
There's also, I see UA, is it Allied?
Yeah, that through our United Association.
Yes. Now, what is that?
That is, we all belong to the United Association, and that's every local of plumbers, pipe fitters, HVAC servicemen, and sprinkler fitters.
Okay. Well, now in Paducah, so there's just your local is the only one
In Paducah.
In Paducah.
Yeah.
Well, now, so originally, most Plumbers and Steamfitters, they were construction. You followed construction around the country.
Right.
Is that still true of your local?
Yes and no. You can, and like I said, economic times sometimes dictate whether you're working at home or you're not. And yeah, you can still travel throughout the country if you want to, and sometimes you may have to. But with the maintenance like it is, a lot of times there's a great demand for work at home. Mm-hmm. So that's been a real good thing for us.
Mm-hmm. So have you done most of your work at home?
Yes, I've done all mine at home.
All at home. Well, do you also, like, are there nationally or locally plumbing companies that have union locals with established at a certain company? Do you do that too?
Well, we've got a lot of plumbing contractors that are signatory to our contract as far as that goes, and throughout the state. Right.
So, again, getting back to this thing about the youth of this, it's amazing. Is there anyone else in your local close to your age who's an officer?
No, sir.
Yeah. And again, it's a fascinating topic to me. It was across the board. In fact, I was talking this morning with one of your Masonic brothers, Keith Downs, and he says the same thing there. They're mostly older.
Yeah.
And that's it's a difficulty, not just for unions as well. A lot of technology, a lot of computerization is coming into the workplace. Are you all just having to deal with that too?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and we're taking care of that through our apprenticeship school. A lot of your orbital welding and CAD drawing and things like that. We've got a guy that's strictly over our apprenticeship school that does a good job, and we are definitely keeping up with the times.
And your apprenticeship school is in Reedland?
Yes.
And well, how many do you have a class of guys who go through together these schools? I
mean, like first year, guys that got in the same year, they'll go through together, so to speak. Now they may not be in the same classes, but they will top out the same year.
So how many in a group?
It just depends. Like I said, economic times a lot of times dictate how many people that we take in. Mm-hmm. Right now, I think presently we have 62 apprentices at our apprenticeship school. They go Monday, Tuesday, some Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, and some Wednesday, Thursday.
And these are mostly night classes, or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned an initiation. Is it sort of like a fraternity or the Masonic order when they go into the union? Is it like a ceremony, something like that?
Oh, no, not so much.
Yeah. Because you go back to the old Knights of Labor, it was sort of a combination fraternal organization as well as a union, and they actually had initiations and things like that too. Another thing, and it's sort of related to youth, is involvement in politics. One of your union brothers, Larry Sanderson, has been on this program a number of times. Larry says it's all politics. It boils down to politics. Statistics clearly show that the older you are, the more likely you are to vote. How in the world do you get young people engaged in the political arena?
And that's a good question. I wonder that myself a lot. It seems like I don't know if there's a lack of motivation. A lot of young people, they think it doesn't pertain to them as far as politics. That their vote does not count, and that's not true. Everyone's vote counts, and to get people more involved in politics, I don't know the answer, and I don't know the solution, but I wish I did, mm-hmm. because I do see a lack of interest.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, and again, I've talked to a lot of union leaders about this, including Larry, is how some politicians have been very skillful at splitting unions by appealing to social issues rather than economic issues. That union members vote, what has been termed the 3 Gs, God, guns, and gays, and not economic issues. Do you run into that with your membership? And if so, how do you address that issue?
Yes, sir. And I like to classify that as I often use the term moral issues, mm-hmm. which you hit on all three. It seems like that is a platform for a lot of political parties to run on time and time again. And I feel like it is a platform for them to run on, but nothing ever gets, there's nothing that ever changes about the three, you know. So I kind of think of that as kind of like dangling a carrot in front of a mule, so to speak. I just, you know, there hasn't been nothing changed about those three issues.
Larry put it this way to me once: if you don't have a job, you can't buy a gun.
That's right. You can't buy bullets either.
That's right, and that's part of it. Your union has how many members?
Around 600 around 600.
That would be one of the largest locals, if not in the state of Kentucky, certainly this end of the Kentucky. One other thing too, in talking to union officers, is attendance at regular monthly union meetings. Do you have a pretty good turnout?
We do. Not as good as I would like to see, but we do have a decent turnout.
What percentage would you say?
Now we may have. Well, when I say good turnout and use percentages, now that doesn't sound so good, but maybe 20%, which
A lot of
well, now,
industrial
and some of these are members total,
Right.
you know, active and inactive,
Right.
And a lot of people have, you know, are now working out of an industrial union. So out of around 500 or so active, I would say probably 15 to 20%.
That would be probably slightly above average. But once again, that's another issue that has come up, and I've talked to everybody I've had on the show about that, is how do you get people to turn out for these monthly meetings? You said that concerns you, and it certainly would concern me if I were in your position. Any ideas how to get more than 15% to turn out?
No, I mean, you know, I just and people are busy. I understand that. You know, of course, you know, a lot of people have priorities, and of course, you know, especially summertime ball games, things like that. I understand that, but I don't know the answer, and I've thought long and hard about that.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
I talked to a union,
and sometimes frustrating.
Yes, I talked to a union president at Calvert in one of the industrial unions. He said they even offered door prizes, and it didn't seem to work. And I guess what I find interesting about it, as I'm sure you do too, is this is your job, your livelihood we're talking about here. This is not a club. And again, I know you do have summertime ball games, but what about the winter months?
Right.
That's a very difficult thing to do, to deal with. Now, explain to me the structure. Of course, craft unions are very different in the way they're structured than industrial unions. Your title is business agent.
Yes, sir.
You also have a business manager. And of course, in industrial unions, usually president, vice president, and so on. What's the tradition behind that?
You know, actually, industrial unions will have an actual business agent.
They do,
Yeah.
right? But in your local, the head of the local is the business manager,
That's
whereas
right.
in an industrial union, it's a president.
Right.
So,
right.
Why do you know why the distinction is there? It's a
And
tradition.
actually, you need someone there to handle your business, as far as from finances, anything else that comes up, almost to lobby for you, so to speak, and that has always been tradition.
Have you done any lobbying, political lobbying?
No, sir.
You'll maybe one of these days do that.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, now of course, Larry was for years the business manager. He's now an international rep. Your business manager now is
Larry Robinson.
who has also been in the union for a very long time.
And he was actually a business agent before he was business manager.
Now, are you all elected to these positions?
The business manager is elected. A business agent is appointed
By the business
by
manager.
the business manager.
Right. You also have a secretary treasurer?
Yes.
Who does that?
David Walker.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and that's an elected position as well.
Right.
And we also have an administrative assistant in the office as well, Alicia Farmer.
Right. Talked to her on the telephone.
Mm-hmm.
I sure have. But it seems to me, you're local, it's a real family tradition. A lot of people I've talked to have had uncles and cousins.
Yeah,
and,
the family ties are very deep.
is that traditional in the
A lot of times it
steamfitters?
is. A lot of times it is.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the history of the union, where it got started. You said you took a course in that, and I teach history, and I'm always interested in this. 1899, you got started. What about the early history of the union?
Well, as far as our organization,
Mhm.
like I said, it was chartered in 1899, which you'll find that a lot of local unions we're numbered by the charter,
Right.
which we're 184.
So you were the 184th local.
Right, and like local 1 is in New York.
So they were the first.
So it was kind of a thing that started, which you'll watch history,
Right.
Up north and trickled down.
Right, to the industrial states. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you all were the 184th nationwide to charter. How many
as
locals?
far as under United Association?
Right. So how many locals then are there today? Is it in the thousands?
No, it's like 800s.
Still, that puts you all among the pioneers.
Right. Right.
Of that. And do you know who founded it here in Paducah, who the early folks were?
No. No, I
Okay.
do not.
And were you all, the hall, you're down on Broadway.
Yes.
Is that where your hall has always been?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So 184.
I believe it was built in 53.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and
Yeah.
obviously before that. So, and I know too that your local was very active in the early Labor Day parades going back, and you still have a float in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's pretty much a tradition too.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact,
And we always have a big turnout, which is really great.
you do,
Yeah.
and you guys usually march in a group,
Yeah.
several hundred of you,
Yeah.
behind a banner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. So after you've been business agent for a while, do you want to be business manager someday? Maybe?
Yeah, I hope to.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and then become international rep.
Well, who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah. Do you have any interest in politics personally?
Yeah, I do.
Keep involved in it.
Yeah.
Going back to young people, how do you convince young people to get involved?
A lot of times I feel like politicians do not target young people. Some of the issues that are most talked about may not be issues that young people have a whole lot of interest in or pay a whole lot of attention to. And I don't know that, I got involved in politics, through my family. My family was involved in politics.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if maybe there's a lack there as far as families not teaching their children, more about politics. I really don't know what the main problem is, but I still believe that the young people aren't or haven't been a target group.
So you get pretty actively involved in. Well, let's talk about the endorsement process. Unions endorse candidates. How does that work? How does Local 184 decide?
Well,
who it's going to endorse?
like I said, we are a local. You have state endorsements, and that's usually how that happens. You have a state endorsement, and then that trickles down through your.
But now
other
you all
locals.
have input in the state endorsement, don't you?
Sometimes, yes. It's every local has a voice as far as an endorsement.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, do you all have a state association?
Yes,
Where
Kentucky
you-
Pipe Trades.
And that's like an executive board?
Well, that's just that's a Kentucky state organization.
And you elect members to that?
Yes. Well, we're all members. We all pay. We're all actually members of the Kentucky Pipe Trades Association.
Right, right. One of the things, and I think it showed labor really flexing its muscles, was in the not this current session of the legislature, but the past session, when labor really united to defeat right to work, to defeat a move to destroy the prevailing wage, and the big area meeting was in Local 184's hall.
Yes, it was.
Lots
it
of
was.
people there for that. And I think that was a real example of how labor can, if you stand united, what you can accomplish.
And I believe that we delivered a message, and that was very that was just it was unbelievable, really, the turnout, and
Had them standing outside.
had them standing outside. Yep.
Had politicians speak.
Yes.
And now, and I was there, but I have to say that the top orator was a man named Larry Sanders.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job. He delivered
he's
a pretty
good.
powerful speech.
He's
Yes,
pretty,
he
pretty
is.
powerful.
Yes, he is.
Is he a good model for you to be a speech maker?
Yeah, but it's all big shoes to fill.
It really is. I must say, the first time I didn't know Larry was such an orator,
Yeah.
but I was at a Labor Day picnic, and I had decided to go and get me a cold Sprite. And I heard this man speaking, and I said, that's got to be the reincarnation of Henry Clay. And I had no idea. And I mean, it was just a tremendous speech like that. And he could certainly teach public speaking, oratory,
Yeah.
but he really fired up the crowd. And that had to be a real boost for you all.
Yes,
to
it
host,
always
to-
is. It always
to host that sort of thing. What about the future? We have 2 minutes left. How do you see the future of Local 184? I mean, is technology, I guess what I'm saying is, when you think of a plumber, you think of a guy who's putting together pipes. And obviously this is computer. So what is the future of your local?
Well, that's kind of a broad spectrum. The future, I mean, I feel like we have a bright future, a very bright future, and we're going to continue to deliver a trained, skilled workforce. And by that I mean, with whatever we are faced with as far as technology, we are going to step up our training efforts in order to overcome.
Mm-hmm. And in the future of the labor movement across the board, what do you think? Look in your crystal ball.
I feel that, like I said, I feel like that we lost a little momentum, but I feel like that we are picking up momentum, and I really believe that we're going to come on strong.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
In the few seconds we have left, let's say someone watching this program would like to become a plumber through your local. How would they apply?
In person, applications go out in July, and you apply at our apprenticeship school. And like I said, you have to apply in person, receive an application, fill it out, turn it back in, and we'll call for an interview.
And that would be, so this is in July?
Yeah.
So then how long?
Then they'll usually set up interviews. They'll contact everyone, send them a letter telling them when their interview will be, what time to report to the school.
And then you're interviewed by what, the instructors at
By
the
the
school?
apprenticeship committee.
The apprenticeship
Yeah.
committee at the school?
Uh-huh.
And then, so if the letters go out in July, when would the class then start?
We always start September. The classes always start in September.
Kind of like school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we always start after the Labor Day parade.
Right, exactly so. Well, we'll have to stop at that point. We're out of time.
All right.
My guest today was Kyle Henderson. I'm Barry Craig. We will see you next time.